So I needed a tight end. So what did Dev do? What did stupid Dev do?
What did stupid Dev do?
Stupid Dev went to the waiver wire and picked up every viable tight end. So I found Juwan Johnson. So Juwan Johnson, Dev, mark my words, stupid Dev. Juwan Johnson has had double-digit fantasy points in back-to-back games and now plays the Buccaneers, who are top 5 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. Juwan Johnson, 7 targets last week. He's a viable streamer this week. He finishes as a top 12 tight end. Your evil plan fails in terms of tight end, stupid Dev. Give me Juwan Johnson.
You heard the man. Called his shot. Juwan Johnson, who leads waiver wired for tight ends here. 85% available against the Falcons. The Saints can clinch the NFC South or wild card, but they need a win plus help. And Matthew, boy, was this a clutch pickup for you. 12 targets, 8 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown for Juwan Johnson.
I am so, fantasy is so dumb and it's so emotional, right? I am so proud of this. Like, you're like, it didn't matter. You had 40 points from, CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra went off and everything like that. I don't care. I was so proud of this Juwan Johnson pick because I lost Hawkinson and he literally, Dev, picked up every single possible tight end that he thought he could. His bench was nothing but tight ends for much of the week. And then, of course, Sunday morning he dropped them all so that I couldn't pick them back up. And so being able to, sift through the ashes of what was left, the dregs of society there among tight ends, and finding Juwan Johnson there, this beautiful gem of Juwan Johnson for the Saints, and then him coming through like he did. I am so proud of that. I am so happy and unbelievably excited that he had a huge game, by the way. It's a nice matchup this week against Atlanta as well. Bottom 6, Falcons bottom 6 in terms of most catches and yards allowed to tight end so far this season. He's now had double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight weeks. He scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks, which is not surprising. He's actually tight end 2 in fantasy over the last 3 weeks. So I do think if you're playing in Week 18 and looking for a tight end, Juwan Johnson's viable, baby.
Yeah, I think you
star Juwan Johnson.
You definitely pulled a horseshoe out of your pocket on that one. All right, another tight end on the list here, Jay. Tucker Kraft against the Bears, 80% available. Green Bay clinches the wild card with a win in this one, but Luke Musgrave returned to practice last week. Kraft's been good with Musgrave down.
Yeah, he's been solid. Look, if Musgrave is back playing, you don't want any part of Tucker Kraft most likely. But if Musgrave can't go, as you mentioned, Packers need this game. They'll be going all out. You cannot run the ball on Chicago, so they should have to throw. And he was 6 targets, 6 receptions, 48 yards last week against Minnesota with a chance of getting in the end zone. So I think you can do worse.
We move over to the running backs here with Khalil Herbert against those Packers, 47% available. Matthew against Atlanta in Week 17. He got the volume, 18 rushes, 124 yards, and the touchdown, also added 2 catches as well.
The important thing to remember here is that Deontay Foreman has been inactive each of the last 2 weeks for personal reasons. We don't know what they are. We don't know if he'll miss this game. It feels like it's trending that way. We haven't even seen anything about it. Hope everything's okay with Deontay and his family. But regardless of that, assuming Foreman is out once again, you'd expect Herbert to get the majority of the work. And so the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 20 fantasy points per game. He's gotten at least 20 touches on 120 yards from scrimmage in each of the last 2 weeks. And, oh, by the way, the Packers over the last 4 weeks are a bottom 10 run defense. And so Khalil Herbert should get a nice workload on Sunday against their division rivals.
If you can't get Herbert, how about Justice Hill against the Steelers, Jay? 81% available. Baltimore have clinched the number 1 seed, which maybe means more volume for Justice Hill this week?
Yeah, potentially. You think that with Gus Edwards, his injury history, they might want to put him in cotton wool. The other thing, too, though, and why Justice Hill, he was excellent against Miami, but why he may get continued run against the Steelers is that just with the NFL, it's like you can't just rest your whole team. That's not how the roster works. This isn't like the Knicks in Game 82 being able to play just like Miles McBride 48 minutes and go to a 7-man rotation. Like, they're going to have to play their guys, and you wouldn't think that Justice Hill is high on the list of players to be rested. So I think that he should play, and I think he should get decent volume.
For wide receivers, as we move to waiver wired wide receivers, Demarcus Robinson on the Rams, 72% available. Matthew, his Linsanity run continues. 10 targets, 6 catches, 92 yards. What a 5-game stretch for Demarcus Robinson.
Last 4, he's had a 21% target share as well. Since week 14, he's played 91% of the offensive snaps as well. So somehow this offense has shown that it can support 3 fantasy relevant wide receivers beyond Kupp and Puka. Obviously, Demarcus Robinson now has 5 straight games with at least 5 straight games with at least 13 fantasy points there, as you see it there on your screen. Since week 13, he's been the 19th best wide receiver in fantasy. By the way, there's another guy that stupid Dev picked up but didn't use against me. Ha ha! Stupid Dev. Anyway, poor Dev. Poor Dev. You know, he's the sweetest kid in the world. He works his ass off on the show. And he's just getting murdered by me because I'm a jerk. Anyway, we need to have Dev on the show.
You can control this.
I know, but whatever. You know, we should have Dev on the show. We should have Dev on the show to let him, you know, rebuttal and say whatever he wants to me. Absolutely. But regardless, Demarcus Robinson is a very viable pickup. They're playing San Francisco, but they're going to have to throw. And again, you can throw on the Niners. And Demarcus Robinson, who's getting just a ton of work recently, I think, you know, is a viable streamer this week.
One more wide receiver here, Jay. Christian Kirk, available in 45% of leagues. He's got the Titans defense, which you love to see. And Doug Peterson said on Monday, Kirk could have his practice window activated this Wednesday.
Yeah, if Christian Kirk can play, you're most certainly likely starting Christian Kirk. I think the type of player he is as well, that he can get his receptions in not a lot of snaps. So this is a game they need to clinch the division. And just the way they're playing, the no game is a layup. So if he can go, suspect that he's going to be a viable option.
We close with a couple quarterbacks here, Matthew. Nick Mullens against the Lions, Joe Flacco against the Bengals, although we'll see how much he's ultimately going to play, and Tyrod Taylor against that poor Eagles defense.
Yeah, Nick Mullens, I mean, it's a little scary because ultimately, you know, it feels like it's probably going to be him. They tried Jaron Hall. I don't think they're going to go back to Dobbs at this point. So, you know, Nick Mullens has had at least 300 passing yards both of his starts this year. Lions allowed the 3rd highest yards per pass attempt over the last 4. We saw what CeeDee Lamb did to them. So, in a game script in which we figure the Vikings will be down and throwing, Mullens could be a viable streamer as well. Also, just want to mention Tyrod Taylor. He's going to start for the Giants. No team in the NFL has given up more fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks than the Philadelphia Eagles. So Tyrod, who also obviously gets you points with his legs, could be a viable, if you're desperate, kind of guy in Week 18.
All right, as you see up on the screen, the waiver wire targets for Week 18 recapped if you need some help, if you're still playing.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.